Hi, welcome back to the Lighthouse Addictions Topic Show. My name is Joe. I am your host for today, and I am here with my new friend, Ricardo. Welcome, Ricardo. And we are going to talk about sponsorship with men today because we've already talked about sponsorship with women. And before we start, we're going to have him talk about his story into his own recovery. So go ahead, Ricardo. Welcome.
Thank you. So I guess I'm a perfect example of how the disease of addiction has no boundaries. How it has no discrimination. You know, I guess I would be a good example as to what typically you wouldn't think would be an addict. I grew up in a very loving family. Mm-hmm. I was raised right, you know, with good morals and good character and you know, I just at a young age kind of just started rebelling, you know, and I just didn't really like me too much, you know. I was really good at throwing out this persona of that I'm always happy, that I have things put together, and that I'm okay when really I wasn't okay inside, you know, and that just kind of took off and into my adult life, you know, and I started getting into trouble and started using and drinking, and I would go in and out of jail and in and out of jail and in and out of jail, and this last time around I went before the judge, and the judge said, you know, I can have 4 years in prison or go to a rehab.
Oh, wow.
So prison was not really an option that I ever wanted out of myself. I was always really good at getting in trouble and taking it right to the point of getting in too much trouble. And this is just a good example of that also. So I took the rehab, and I ended up going to an amazing rehab in Long Beach. Mm-hmm. And that's where it kind of all started for me, you know. I think the biggest thing for me was that when I got there, I still wasn't sure that this is what I wanted. I just knew that I didn't want to go to prison. Right. And for me, that was enough. You know, for me, that was enough to just say, I'm going to go ahead and give this a chance. And it's turned out to be amazing.
Good. What are some challenges that you faced in your early recovery?
Gosh, you know, I've been really, really blessed with that. You know, I haven't really had too many challenges that have come across my way. You know, it was amazing how, for me, the second that I started making good decisions and the second that I started to do the right thing, the right things just kind of started happening for me. You know, so I haven't really had any challenges at all. You know, I know that it's not going to always be that way, and I'm really blessed that I haven't had any of those challenges hit me early on in my recovery, because I don't know if I would have been able to get over some hurdles that some people endure early on in their recovery.
All right. Well, do you feel like, could you explain to us what a sponsor is?
So sponsor, you know, geez, my first sponsor, you know, I love him. He was he's an amazing guy. You know, he told me right away, you know, I need you to start praying, you know, and I need you to start praying because I'm a human and I'll mess up, you know, and that was the biggest thing that I learned from him. You know, is that no matter what, we're all humans. Just because you sponsor somebody doesn't make you any better than them. Just because you have a sponsor doesn't mean that he's you know, your wallet. He doesn't mean that he's your Uber driver. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that he's, you know, your buddy. You know, he's your sponsor, and you're there to take, you know, suggestion from him, or you should at least take suggestion from him. You know, sponsorship is the cornerstone of this program, of any 12-step program.
Could you elaborate on that? Why do you feel like it's the cornerstone?
Well, you know, like it says, you know, it's like sponsees help sponsors just as much as sponsors help sponsees. You know, a perfect example is a gentleman that I sponsor. You know, if it wasn't for him, I probably would still be stuck on my 4-step. You know, wow. I stayed on my 4-step for almost 14 months, and he kept kind of asking me, "Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet?"
So that he could move forward, right?
Because so yeah, because you know, I was holding him back from his program, because from his steps, because I was stuck on my step.
So actually, you're only allowed to be sponsoring someone with as many steps that you've already completed. So if you're past 4, then you can sponsor someone up to that point.
Well, see, the thing with sponsorship is that there's really no set rule in that. I think I personally had this. I had my own personal set rule on myself where, like, I felt like in order for me to truly help somebody, I needed to at least have a year.
Yeah.
In order for me to truly help somebody, I needed to at least been through my steps. You know, and when I got asked to be a sponsor, I was still really not sure, and so I asked my sponsor, because that's just what we do in the program, is that, you know, we run things by our sponsor to make sure that we're making the right decision, or make sure we're not doing something that we shouldn't be doing. And so my sponsor, being the man that he is, he recognized the fact that I probably needed like a little push to get through my steps. So he said it was a good idea that I went ahead and sponsored. So I said yes, and it was a good thing that I did, you know, because like I said, I would probably still be just sitting on my steps, not really getting through them like I should have.
Thank you. And do you feel like it is important for men to sponsor other men and for women to sponsor other women?
So I'm a big believer in the saying that men should stick with the men and women should stick with the women. It just works out better that way, I think. You know, I really think that nobody understands another man like another man. You know, nobody understands a woman like another woman. You know, we kind of go through the same problems and we hit the same hurdles. And it's just a lot easier to. It just leaves everything else out of the way, you know. When women stick with the women and men stick with the men. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I know people that have like a significant amount of time, men that have significant amount of time, and they do sponsor women, and that's all their decision. But for me personally, I stick with the men.
So a lot of people in recovery, not all of them, but some of them. Don't do a 12-step program. They do other programs like Buddhist recovery or whatever. So they don't have quite sponsors, but they have mentors. So what do you feel is the benefit of having either a sponsor or a mentor?
That's a good question. Because I have a lot of mentors in this program. In a 12-step program, I have a lot of mentors also. You know, for me, it's whatever works. You know, whatever keeps you sober or clean is what works for you, and then I think you should stick with that. If it's not sponsorship and if it's not a 12-step program, but it's like a religious-based program or a spiritually based program other than a 12-step program, I think whatever works, you should do. You know,
sure.
But I definitely have a list of men that I have in my phone that I call when it's time for me to make a decision. You know, I run it by my sponsor and I run it by my sponsee sometimes, and I run it by other men that are in the program too.
So what I'm hearing from you is that one of the most important things as far as you having sponsors or mentors is the ability to bounce ideas back or concerns so that they can give you feedback.
Absolutely, because the decisions that I made on my own got me into a treatment center.
Very true.
And so I make bad decisions, and I've proven that to myself time and time again. So I really try not to make too many decisions on my own. As a matter of fact, I don't make any decisions on my own.
No matter what happens, like if you want to do this later on today, I'm sure it doesn't have to be that small or little decisions like that. But if you had like a relatively big decision, you would have to run it through your sponsor or other sober people.
I personally do, yeah. You know, because it just helps me make an overall decision as to if I'm going the right direction or not. You know, because it's with alcoholics or with addicts, like we make poor decisions sometimes. I make poor decisions, and it's really important for me to make sure that what I'm feeling inside or what I'm thinking up here is valid, is what I should be or what I shouldn't be feeling, you know.
So let's go back to a sponsor and sponsee relationship. You did mention that it's beneficial for you to have a sponsee because they can help motivate you to work your steps, 12-step program, a little bit faster or more consistent. What other benefits do you feel having a sponsee can give you?
So it's amazing the kind of relationship that's built when you sponsor somebody,
That's a big one.
or when you have a sponsor. You know, it's a relationship that's unlike any other, really. You know,
Right.
because as a sponsor, this man has for some reason chosen me to want to help him, and there's a major responsibility that's involved with that.
Right.
You know, and you really don't understand it until you get into that position where somebody says, "Hey, will you sponsor me?" You know, and it's kind of like, wow, like I have a difficult time running my own life. How am I going to help this person manage their life,
Right.
or you know, like do this thing called life with them? You know,
Right.
because ultimately that's what you're doing. You're involved in their everyday life. And you know, they call you, and I'm big on phone calls. I call my sponsor. For the first year of my recovery, I called my sponsor every day. I think I missed probably like 4 or 5 times. I called him every single day
year?
in the first year of my recovery.
That's pretty
Now
impressive.
it's like I call him every once in a while, and I see him once a week, and we spend time together, and it's amazing. You know, you build it doesn't start off as a friendship. It starts off as a sponsorship relationship, but it over time it definitely turns into a friendship. You know, somebody that you share life with. You know, I'm getting married in October, and my sponsee is going to be in my wedding. Thank you. My sponsee's in my wedding, and that's just what it comes down to. You know, it comes down to like this man trusted me, and I trust him, and we have an amazing relationship today.
So sweet.
You know?
I hope your sponsee is listening. So
I'm sure he is.
We're running out of time, so I just want to close with 2 more questions. The first one is, what would you say to family members or loved ones of an addicted person?
Wow, that's so hard, you know, when that hits home, because it's like my mom tried everything under the sun. You know, she tried to tell me everything she possibly could that sorry, I'm a crybaby, especially when I
Don't
talk,
cry because you'll make
especially
me
when
cry.
I talk about my mom. You know, she tried everything. You know,
Yeah, I
and
can
like
understand
and
that.
it's like in meetings, you know, when you go to meetings, there's a moment of silence for the alcoholic or addict who's still suffering, and for me that's always so important, because like that was my mom. You know, my mom always prayed. And I didn't know that until later, and she told me that, you know. But if you're a family member of somebody that's suffering from this disease, it's hard, you know, because it's like you don't know if you should tough love them, you don't know if you should keep enabling them. My mom was my biggest enabler, you
Yeah.
know, and but it's not her fault, you know. She was just being a mother.
Just doing the best that she could with what she had, right?
And I don't know. I would just suggest try getting them into a treatment center, and do a lot of praying.
Yeah. That's beautiful, very simplistic, but very powerful advice. And what kind of advice would you give to somebody who is currently active in their addiction and struggling, maybe considering treatment?
If you're struggling with the disease of addiction, and you know, if you are, you know, we try to fool ourselves and think that we're not. We try to tell ourselves that we're not, but we know deep down that we are. Reach out. You know, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of programs that are out there to help. You know, there's meetings everywhere. There's people out there that are willing to help. You know, if you're suffering from the disease of addiction and you want out, there's a way out. You know, you don't have to live that way. And I hope that you find your way into the rooms of a 12-step program.
Well, thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure having you. Everybody, see you next week. Just a reminder, we're here every Thursday at 3 p.m. Facebook.com/Lighthouse Treatment. See you guys.